So if you've watched my channel before and seen what the sort of stuff that I've posted, you'll see that I'm hugely into my reptiles and animals, and I really wanted to have a snake skeleton following on from my Velociraptor skeleton to put into my room. And now you can see I come across this Gaboon Viper skull, and this thing looks absolutely incredible. The detail in the pictures looks absolutely amazing. From the description it says that it's an actual scan, and you can also see that it's quite large, so I scaled this down to 50%. And I printed this on my Elegoo Saturn II. It's a 8K printer, and even though it's only 8K, the details came out absolutely perfectly. There were no visual lines, layer lines. You can see the teeth on here are almost like the size of a pin, and they're absolutely tiny. So for me, this printer is absolutely incredible. I'd highly recommend it. Here in the background you can see the Velociraptor skeleton that I'm currently working on. If you haven't seen that video, go onto my channel, go and check that out because it's almost done. I'm currently in the process of painting it, and it looks phenomenal painted. It looks absolutely amazing. But here you can see I'm removing my resin prints from the plate. Now this is a water washable resin. I prefer to use the water washable rather than using the isopropyl alcohol. I just find that it's, I don't know, I find it a lot easier using the washable stuff, and it's a lot easier to get rid of the water basically. I normally leave this tub outside, and then once I feel everything's cured, I then just pour the water away. But here you can see I'm removing the supports. The supports on this printer are absolutely amazing. I use the Chisu box slicer, and that does an amazing job of making sure all the supports are in place. They're not too firmly bonded to the model, so they break off really easily. And actually removing these supports is so satisfying. It's unreal. The little snaps and clicks, if you've ever done it before, like this part here on the top part of the skull, pulling that away is so satisfying. And you can see here I actually managed to get that whole central piece of supports pulled away in one go, which again is just, yeah, I love this part of the printing side. So from here I use a brush normally just to sort of clean all my prints off. I don't have an actual wash station yet. I'm looking at getting one at some point, but yeah, I normally use the brush, and as you can see, this skull piece came out absolutely perfectly. The detail on it is incredible. The teeth, you can see how fine the teeth are, and what actually surprised me was how big the fangs are, or the I don't actually know what they're called, but the larger teeth of this snake. You can see just how big they are. They're curved up just underneath the eye socket there where I'm pointing. You can see I'm pointing to them now. I couldn't believe how big they are, and I believe this model that I've printed, I did it at 50%, so this is basically half the size of what a full scale one could possibly be. I believe the head can reach 6 inches in diameter across basically, which is incredible. But yeah, I printed this one, and I didn't realise at the time, but when you download this file, you can actually download all the pieces individually. So I accidentally printed 2 skulls in one. The fact that I printed this second one gave me an idea. And the first skull, it's quite closed up, it's almost like the mouth is closed. I thought, why don't I try and reconstruct this as if it was almost yawning, stretching its mouth out as if it was going to strike and actually bite something. So I started going through all the pieces, just sort of seeing how they all work. There was a few supports inside the skull still that I had to remove. I did this on the other one as well, I just did not film it. But yeah, I had to remove a few of the supports still inside. But again, they came out so easily. And you can see by some of these parts, they're so small, they're so fiddly. And during this build as well, I did have a coffee. So at some point you will see the caffeine hit me and the models become extremely shaky. But here I'm just using some regular super glue just to stick all this together. I do have some accelerator as well, just to help seal that glue, make it go off a little bit quicker. But the parts that I was sticking together, I didn't really know how they went together. I was trying to find some reference pictures online, but there weren't many, and I was basically just going from pictures of snakes with their mouth open, and I was also using the skull that I've already printed as a reference. I was trying to use that to try and gauge where everything went. Now, I didn't have to modify any of these prints in any way. They all went together pretty much perfectly, and yeah, it was a really simple process. You just have to be very patient with it. So you can see I'm constantly checking the original skull that print off in one go, and I'm just making sure that everything is almost spot on. Now, I don't think I put this together 100% perfectly, and you'll see that at the end, but I still think it looks absolutely incredible. And if you understand what the model is, then it'd be easy for you to understand what I've actually created. Now, trying to get this together was very fiddly. I spent a long time putting stuff together, trying to maneuver it to where I think it needed to be, and then after that I'd compare it to the original skull, and I didn't quite like the idea of where it was, so I'd pull it off and I'd do it again. I didn't record all that and put that in the video just because it would have made the video way too long. But trying to guess where all these parts would go as if the snake was opening its mouth was quite tricky. So it may not be perfect, it may not be exactly how it would be, but I've put them in a position that I think looks really cool, and I'm really impressed with it. One of the challenges I had with this as well was just because I printed this, it was 100% infill anyway, but some of the parts were fairly brittle, and on one of these I believe I did snap one of the teeth off. You probably won't recognise it because it was such a small tooth, but yeah, the prints were so fragile, and that's probably because of the scale that I printed it at. If I printed this at 100%, you can see the coffee shakes have kicked in here, but if I'd printed this at 100%, then the parts probably would have had a little bit more structural support, and they probably wouldn't have broke as easy. But again, I think it makes it look more realistic, and overall I'm really happy with the way this came out. It looks so good in my opinion. Now, I was contemplating painting these or maybe doing like a gloss varnish on them, but the resin that I've got is it's an opaque white color, and I think it's not a pure in your face bright white, it's sort of an off-white color, and I think it actually looks really good as is, so I didn't decide to do anything to it. Now, getting these fangs in place, again, my OCD was screaming at me throughout just because I couldn't get it absolutely perfect, and the way that I've positioned them, there was such a small amount of contact with the plastic that I had to slowly build up layers of glue to sort of help support the teeth. So I eventually got the teeth in place. I'd apply a little bit of glue, use the activator spray, and I'll just keep building up those layers until I've got some form of support on that. And you can see here, this is the position I've gone with. The bottom jaw completely spread out, the two fangs at the front there in that sort of strike position, and then after this it was just a case of getting the inner teeth in. And again, they on the main model supported themselves on the actual teeth, but because I've got those fangs pointing forwards, I had to somehow guess and estimate where those teeth would have been positioned in that position. And again, I don't know the anatomy of the snake that well. Like I said, I've tried looking online, there's not a great deal online, and this is what I've eventually come up with. Now, it looks fairly realistic to me. I keep ball pythons, and I've seen the way that their mouth splits at the bottom, so this was the best sort of orientation for me. Now, to have these shown, I wanted to 3D print some little stands, so I jumped onto Shaper 3D printed some small little models just to sort of put them on, and overall I think they came out absolutely spot on. They're a little bit flimsy, but unless you're going to be moving them all the time, I don't think it's going to be too bad. Now, they do support the weight of the skulls perfectly. Trying to get them balanced on the little stands was quite tricky, but yeah, overall they look amazing. So that's enough of me talking. Let's have a look at the final models. Now, I'm really enjoying making these models and sort of showing you the process of how I make them and put them all together, and I really hope you're enjoying them too. So thanks for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.